Yo, what's poppin', people? It's Dante, currently getting my morning started here in my hotel in Tokyo. And I just wanted to share with you behind the scenes of how I warm up on the street. And so we're going to be looking at some GoPro footage of me just embarking on this little practice session where I'm basically just shooting as people are coming in and out of Shinjuku Station, using light. And so the idea is with street photography, a lot of what we embrace is mundane, right? You're not going to find such emotionally impactful sort of one of one moments all of the time when you're out there on the streets, right? Specifically here in Tokyo, it's pretty much a typical urban environment where people are hustling and bustling, going to work, enjoying their lunch, kind of just going to and fro locations. And so what you'll find on the streets here is mostly just people walking around. And that's most of what street photography is. You're kind of just walking and wandering and watching other people walk around. And so one thing that we can do to elevate our street photography is use light, right? Where light elevates the mundane. And so in this particular video, we're going to look at behind the scenes of how I use light and then look at the photographs and just discuss a couple of different ideas on how you can apply this technique in your street photography. Yo, what's poppin', people? It's Dante, practicing some street photography here in Shinjuku Station, Tokyo, Japan. And so I got the Ricoh GR3 with the snap focus set to 1 meter, high contrast black and white, crank to the max, highlight weighted metering mode. And I'm just watching as the fish come towards me. You know, I'm just standing here, standing put, and watching as people enter into the light. And so I'm physically positioning my body in a particular way where as soon as the person steps 1 meter in front of me, they're essentially entering into the light. And so the background being in the shadow area will be completely crushed in the black. And this is a really simple way for me to warm up and to get some sort of just shots in and just, just warm up that idea of just clicking the shutter and just recognizing people in the light and the movement and timing. And yeah, it's just a way I like to practice sometimes. I'll find a choke point like this and I'll basically just shoot as close as possible as people are coming in towards me and yeah, work a scene, I mean, what's interesting is I'm observing the life here in Tokyo so far. This is my first day shooting, and it's mostly kind of just like that traditional street photography where people are kind of just going about their everyday life, walking around. It's mostly just, that typical sort of like urban environment of people moving and sort of just hustling and bustling. Like obviously here's a train station. And so you're not really going to find anything so extraordinary in terms of the content that you can put within the frames. But what I try to do is embrace the mundane and find ways for me to thrive as a street photographer. And so, yeah, one of the things I like to do is just position myself as close to the action as possible, find myself in a patch of light, and just play around and fish at a scene like this instead of just always walking, always moving, kind of just staying put and just making snapshots as people come towards me. And so, yeah, just a simple idea for the video, just sharing behind the scenes, sort of just working the scene. Maybe if I go in the shadows you can see exactly what I'm doing with the pictures, but yeah, they kind of just wind up looking like that. And it's just a really easy way to get yourself started. Just find a patch of light, find yourself in the middle of the chaos and the traffic. Shinjuku Station here in Tokyo, Japan. Yeah, and you just set it to 1 meter. Set it to 1 meter and just push yourself to get as close as possible. So essentially with street photography, a lot of what we embrace is mundane, right? People are walking, people are coming and going. But when you position yourself at a choke point where there's energy, where there's people at a train station, for instance, here in Shinjuku Station in Tokyo, I believe this is one of the most busy train stations in the world. And so what happens is when you embrace these sort of mundane situations and scenes and you're patient and you're watching things unfold and you position your body at the right place at the right time where the light is hitting your back and hitting the subjects as they come towards you. Sometimes what you see in the photograph isn't necessarily what you get, but what you get is what you didn't see. And so what I'm trying to explain here is, if you look at this particular image, what happened was I'm making pictures and I'm aware of the light. I'm looking at the different ways in which people are moving in and out of the light and shadow area. I'm aware that there's a background that's crushed in the shadows and the people are coming into the light, right? And so I'm exposing for the highlights. And so while I'm doing this and I'm working the scene, I'm trying to allow the spontaneity and the unpredictability of light and the way that people move to sort of fall into place naturally and allow that sort of chaos and that sort of unpredictable nature of light and the way it casts upon faces and the way people interact with light and shadow play to elevate the mundane. And so with this frame, which I was actually pretty surprised by when I looked at this frame, is this sort of sliver of light, right? So you can see this triangle, this sliver of light where this woman's lips are revealed and the rest of her face is in the shadow. And so this kind of effect is a very simple way to elevate something mundane, right? Just using the light, using that sort of beauty of light and shadow play to elevate the mundane. And so in this frame, you can see another small face that's revealed in the background in relationship to these simple sort of textures of the shirt, of the clothing, of these different items here. And the frame kind of just fell together very spontaneously, right? Like, I'm aware of people moving in and out of the light. I'm aware of these like very simple things, but I wasn't necessarily able to control the light, right? Light, it's out of our control. You know, what we can control in a photograph is where we position our physical body in relationship to the subject, the background, and when we click the shutter. And so when I clicked the shutter at this moment, the way the light and shadow play interacted with the face was a bit more surprising. And so, you know, this frame is the first frame that I came home with of my first day in Tokyo that I'm kind of interested in and intrigued by. And so I just wanted to share with you how these sort of like simple acts of working a scene in light and shadow play can elevate something mundane, like people exiting a train station. And so when I'm photographing in these situations, I try to not only photograph the faces, but also photograph the gestures. I'm always interested in hands and what people are wearing, the clothing, the things that people carry, and also position myself in a place here on the sort of entryway to the station where people are coming out of the station and using the background of the buildings and that sort of triangular shape of light in the skyline to create a more create a photograph with more depth, with more layers. And so in this photograph, I'm using the foreground, the middle ground, and the background to create that sort of layering effect that people are curious about in street photography, where I find it's just extremely simple. You know, all you really need to remember with photography is you just have to know where you have to position yourself, right? So in this situation, I'm positioning myself at a choke point where there's lots of people coming in and out of the frame. I'm waiting and I'm patient and I'm watching as these people enter into the light in relationship to that sort of backdrop of the buildings there on the right-hand side. And so as people come at me, I'm basically keeping my camera at snap focus 1 meter and I'm practicing, I'm warming up, right? This is my warm-up spot for the day. I just started to fish around at the scene because the light was beautiful and there was lots of people. And so as people come into my frame, I pretty much just click the shutter, sometimes vertical, sometimes horizontal, not really looking for anything too specific, but allowing the light, allowing the interplay between light and shadow play to be that single thing that I'm using as my way to elevate the mundane. And so, yeah, photographing textures, photographing people's articles of clothing, etc. But ultimately, this frame here I thought was a little bit more surprising. The lips revealed in that sort of small sliver of light and the face revealed in the background are very small and nuanced details. This photograph is mostly black, right? There is not much in the highlight area in this frame, but going forward, something I'm trying to push with and experiment with my photography, of course, is using light and shadow, but also making photographs that are dark, that are a bit more underexposed or a bit more black generally, where I don't want to expose too many of the details. I really want to make my photographs more mysterious and more moody and more dramatic. And this is a simple tip, a simple way in which I elevate the mundane during my everyday life practicing street photography, and figured I share this tip with you. Hopefully you learned something. I encourage you, if you're finding it difficult to create something strong, recognize that light goes a long way, and finding a good patch of light and having subjects come in and out of that scene can elevate something from mundane to extraordinary. And so if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to go to my website at dantesisifo.com. I should be publishing my photos on my blog there throughout this trip in Tokyo, so hopefully I'll get those up soon. I have the ultimate guide to the Ricoh GR where you can find these ebooks, they're all free on my books tab. If you're curious about how I set up the Ricoh, my techniques, and the sort of snapshot philosophy and how I approach my photography these days, this guide is for you. If you enjoyed looking at some of these images today and enjoy my philosophy and my way of practicing photography, definitely recommend that ebook. Check it out. There's a guide accompanying it with a full 2-hour video breaking down my camera and how I approach the streets. I also have a contact sheets ebook where you can see behind the scenes of my street photography, and then finally the Mastering Layering in Street Photography guide where you can learn about layering. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Just figured I'd turn the iPad Pro on as I import and cull through these photos and share with you some of the things I learned yesterday during my first day in Tokyo. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.